make the procedures safer for women and their unborn babies. Yet these are coming from the same people who want to end abortion. Yet they're saying, oh no, this will make abortion safer. It's obvious that that was just bullshit, essentially. Now, it's interesting that, too, because in most cases, conservatives are against regulating like that. But the one thing they seem to want to regulate is the abortion business. The business of Planned Parenthood and such. Naturally, because it's a pro-life agenda, and they're trying to take over the woman's reproductive rights. It's funny, too, because it seems to be a bunch of old men discussing this. And it was a woman who naturally stood up for this, and did this successful filibuster. Hopefully the bill will be forgotten about. Now, according to opponents of the bills, this would have shut down most abortion facilities in Texas, and some people have called this bill the toughest restrictions in the nation. Now, oddly enough, there were 10 Republicans who voted against this. Well, yeah, Republican senators voted 19-10, but it had been past midnight at that point. And under the terms of the state constitution, the bill couldn't be signed, enrolled, or sent to the governor. Conservatives tried to derail the filibuster, but they couldn't do it. So, in this case, she took a page out of Rand Paul's playbook and really accomplished something here. A true filibuster. 13 hours long. So, there's some good news. Now, this weekend, I'm going to be doing a show with previous co-host and good friend Justin Bogro. When he comes on the air, we are going to have in-depth conversations. I'm going to get into the whole Aaron Hernandez thing. He got arrested today. If you don't know who Aaron Hernandez is, he played tight end for the New England Patriots. He was second string to Rob Gronkowski, but on most teams he would have been first string. He had star capabilities, and just this offseason he had signed a contract extension for $41 million. Yet he could never escape the life of the hood. And it baffles me. I want to know why. And if you look at the details of the case, it looks bad for Hernandez. He obstructed justice many times, which is a felony on its own. So even if he's acquitted of murder, they'll still get him on obstruction of justice. He destroyed surveillance evidence at his home. The murder happened just down the street from where he lived. And it was one of his friends. He also destroyed his cell phone, which apparently had some suggested evidence. He hired a cleaning crew to come in and rid the place of a lot of stuff. And there was one disturbing piece of evidence that he never managed to get rid of, where he complained about how he couldn't trust anybody as he was on his way to pick up the guy that he killed. Justin and I will go into that conversation, have a detailed conversation about that. He'll probably bring up a bit of a sports perspective since he's an absolute sports diehard. He might want to talk about the behavior problem the NFL has. I want to try to figure out why the hell people can't get away from the thug life. I'll admit, as I've grown up in a small town, I don't understand the thug life. I had a stepbrother for a little while who was a wannabe thug, but as far as actual thug life, no. I know about rednecks and all that fun stuff, but I sure as hell don't know about the thug life. And why you can't shake that off when you're a pro athlete and making $41 million. That ought to be enough money to, get away from the gangs and whatnot. $41 million should be enough to confidently look at your old homies from the hood and say, I'm not going to associate with you if you're going to keep acting like this and keeping me in trouble. If you want out of the thug life, fine. I'll be your friend. I'll still help you out. I'll help you out if you have problems. I'll be there for you. But I am not getting mixed up with all these shady people anymore. I'm done with that. Now, I have heard in the past that the only way out of a gang was a bullet to the head. Once you're in a gang, you're in for life. But when you're making $41 million, not only should that money be enough to be able to confidently walk away, that's enough money to hire protection in case your former gang members decide to come out and get you. You could hire 1, 2, even 3 bodyguards armed to protect you if you feel like you need that. You don't have to go around packing heat looking for trouble everywhere. Keep a gun on your nightstand for home defense if you want. Have a gun if you're going to go hunting. If you're a professional football player making millions of dollars with a history of gang activity, you should not be running around packing heat. Even if it is your constitutional right, it just doesn't make sense in your case. So we'll get into that. And Dale, I have a suspicion, will be making a reappearance to talk about issues that matter to him. And if you're familiar with the show, you know that that's just going to be a load of fun. But now, I want to talk to you a little bit about a big victory in the Supreme Court regarding civil rights. And if you remember, Prop 8 and the Defense of Marriage Act were two very controversial acts that were having hearings, and I remember getting on Facebook, and half my Facebook friends had changed their profile pictures to a red equals sign that symbolizes their support of marriage equality and ending DOMA. I did a show with the Friendly Neighborhood Fascist and Will and the Fascist Girlfriend, and we had a nice discussion about DOMA and Prop 8, and they were talking about the importance of federally legalizing all same-sex marriage for the sake of benefits. I argued that the government shouldn't be involved in marriage, and I talked about getting rid of marriage licenses. I don't ever see that happening, but ideally I think it's a nice compromise so people on the right can't argue that their beliefs are being infringed upon. It's the only way that nobody's beliefs get infringed upon. You can't agree on who should be allowed to get married? Well, guess what? Government gets out of it. They don't make a definition. You decide on your own. Piss off. Makes sense to me. But it seems like everybody wants more. Now, a lot of people are happy about this rule. They think it's good for the country. I, for one, am cool with it because I knew that it was either going to be yes or no. There was no option C about what I want. There was no option C about ending government marriage or anything like that. But essentially what happens was this is going to pave the way to allow California to have gay marriage back. No more constitutional amendments that outright ban it or define marriage. It's not going to happen. Marriage is not something meant for a government to define because, let's face it, originally, marriage is more of a religious ceremony. If you're talking about the spirituality behind it, ceremonies about love and whatnot, you've got different kinds of marriage structures depending on the religion. I mean, You've got Eastern cultures where arranged marriages are still socially acceptable. You've got, the standard Christian view of marriage nowadays. It's between a man and a woman. You have Mormons, where you can have multiple wives, but you can't drink. But anyway, every religion seems to have a different definition. And the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment is what establishes a separation of church and state. Naturally, the only way to have a separate church and state, no one religion's definition of marriage can expand to everybody. Otherwise, the Constitution is being violated. At the same time, the government can't shove a definition of marriage down religion's throat by expecting taxes to, I don't think taxes really go towards gay couples being married any more than they would towards straight couples. So I'm going to stop on that one. Essentially, in order to protect the separation of church and state, if the government's going to have a definition, they should flat out say it's legal in all 50 states, deal with it. But then people on the right would just never shut up about it. I mean, take some people on Spreaker, for example, like just today. Now, this guy I don't hate him because he has a different view. I don't want to attack him. I want to use him as an example because his show is very popular on here. His shows get posted to YouTube. He has 2,000 followers, more than 2,000 followers on Spreaker compared to my 460. So, I'm not going to say he sucks. But in this particular issue, I think he's flat out wrong. As, if you know who Caden Cowger is, he was just having an absolute fit over this ruling. He wants us to stop using the argument that government is getting in our bedrooms. Because, okay, technically on a literal standpoint, government is not going in the bedroom and stopping homosexual activity from occurring. But at the same time, he was making the argument of, we're not in your bedroom, we're just telling you, you can't come out of the bedroom and have your homosexual marriages. And he had fans commenting about how they opposed all homosexual activity. And there was one particular commenter. This is not the host. This is just a particular commenter who said, who quoted John Adams. Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. First of all, he could be wrong about that quote. And second of all, if he's right about that quote, John Adams was the same founding father who signed the Alien and Sedition Acts when he was president, which was a clear constitutional violation of the First Amendment. So he didn't respect the First Amendment to begin with. The fact that this idea that we are a Christian nation, yet have freedom of religion. Freedom of religion does not mean you are free to be involved in religion. And only that. It means you are free to be of any religion you want to. Or not. And this is just an issue that people should really get over. It is going to hurt conservatives in elections if they focus on this issue. The Democrats are just going to keep winning. And quite frankly, I'm not a fan of either party. I mean, for God's sake, I was calling for the impeachment of the Obama administration over the NSA scandal. But on this particular issue, the Democrats are leaps and bounds ahead of the conservatives. Coming up in part 2, I'm going to wrap up my thoughts on DOMA and shut up Nobody asked you. Coming up.